What do you get when a London-raised American South African and a New York-raised Moroccan meet on the interwebs and become instant soul sisters? One of them, an Ayurvedic practitioner and transformation coach, and the other, a Conspire breathwork coach and Reiki master teacher. Both obsessed with wellness, family, entrepreneurship, relationships, and the magic of human expansion and growth. You get a whole convo. We truly believe that with an open heart, focused mind, and energy receptive to the possibilities, your wellness journey can guide you to a life that exceeds your wildest dreams. Welcome to our podcast. We're Ella and Iman, and we are so happy you're here. Come vibe with us as we explore the wholeness of being through the lens of wellness. Welcome to A Whole Convo with Ella and Iman. Iman, how are you doing?
I'm doing fabulous, feeling very fancy this morning. The opera last night.
Oh,
We did it. We finally did it. It's been a dream of mine. It was my first time and it was epic.
oh, I love this so much. And may I say, you're looking very fancy, darling.
Oh,
I love this top for you. I love the blue.
thank you. It's a fun top. You look amazing as always. I've missed you. I'm
Thank
so
you,
excited for
darling.
the episode.
Oh, so excited. We're going to kick off this episode today talking about the magic, the beauty that is masculine and feminine energy. Now, Iman, why would I say it's magic and beauty to talk about masculine and feminine energy? Why do you think that is?
Do you mean like magic is the masculine and beauty is the feminine, or do you mean both of them?
The combination of having access to these energies.
I think, of course, there's magic and beauty in understanding the energetics of our own being and in life, where they're both the feminine and masculine, and how we actually utilize them to our best advantage. Not one or the other is better, not one or the other is only for some people, no matter what your gender identity is. Both are literally magical and beautiful to work with, depending on what's going on. So I feel like that's why you'd say something
Oh,
like that.
100%. So I guess
I feel like
before
that
we,
was a pop quiz, though. Being
yeah,
a
like
pop
what's she gonna
quiz guy,
say?
and I don't know. I thought pop quizzes were over at third grade for me,
Oh
but
no,
oh,
no, no, no. Let's
not with
stay
you, Ella.
prepared. Let's stay prepared. Let's see what's
Keep
out
me
there.
on my toes.
Yeah, aha. So how about we start with outlining what we actually mean when we're talking about masculine and feminine energy? Because if the people who are watching in, listening in, who haven't actually been exposed to the idea of masculine and feminine energy, I think it's a great place to kind of outline where we're coming from before we go into a bit more
Oh, for
information
sure.
about how it shows
What's
up.
your definition of them?
So
Oh, and why were you excited about sharing this topic?
I'm excited about it because it it is reflected. Masculine and feminine energy is reflected everywhere in our world, everywhere in our universe, in nature, in our planet, in our physical experience, even in our thought and experience and approach to how we do life. So for me it's exciting because it's about understanding things that may be innate within us and certain strengths that we may notice that show up in our lives that we might find we flow more easily in certain actions and a certain approach to life, and also understanding where we may be overexpressed in certain ways in these energies, whether it's through our behaviors, whether it's in the way that we actually feel about things or feel about life, and understanding that there is a way to, when we have that awareness, to create more harmony and introduce a different type of experience into our life as a result. When we can find, oh, actually I may be overexpressed in my masculine energy in this area of my life, and this is why I'm experiencing these challenges, and or it may be in a wounded expression of energy. So I think there's just so many delicious ways to take this awareness into our lives to help, because we talk about this a lot, to elevate our experience and to help us make different choices.
Now, generally speaking, for those who are listening or watching and have heard of masculine and feminine energy, of course, oftentimes or all the time, the masculine energy is described as the doing energy. And then the feminine energy is usually described the flow state or the embodiment or the,
Receiving.
receiving, exactly, receiving energy. Why do you think that is? And do you have like any context that you want to share on why those are described that way?
Well, it's so interesting because there is that correlation through nature. So if we look at the idea of masculine energy as the more active, the more action expression of energy, it's correlated in so many ways to the sun. For example, the sun, heat, and the movement that that type of force creates in the world, and that type of expression into life is given. So, in the yoga traditions, and you'll know this from, I guess it's very similarly expressed in Ayurveda. And when I look at it from a breathwork perspective as well, it is that ability to move, which we associate with the male expression of anything, because it is about strength. It's about shifting, physically shifting from one state or one place to another. That idea of movement, that idea of propulsion, is that a word?
I don't know, but we'll make it a word.
you know that idea, that of the idea of strength. And this is not to say, because we as men and women, and however we identify, whichever gender we identify with, have these traits, this action potential, if you like, to be in a state of movement, in a state of strength, expressing ourselves that way. Whereas the feminine energy is that idea of softness, that idea, and this is in direct contrast because we live in a world of duality, night and day. So day would be the masculine expression, night would be the feminine. The sun is the masculine element, the moon is the feminine element. It's more watery, fire is more masculine. The masculine form moves and how the feminine form moves, which is why they're attached and described in those two ways. Yet it describes that duality that we exist in and experience in the world. Do you relate to that being the most connected expression of those two types of energy in the different ways? As in, the masculine is that harder, more active movement force, feminine is more receptive, flow, receiving.
It's actually funny because I think for me personally, I've become to understand it more in recent years. When I first started learning about it, it didn't really resonate or make sense, but I will tell you this funny thing. It is because I was expressing more masculine
Masculine, yes.
energy most of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my life has been in this very, like you said, propulsion, like just propelling, doing, not being in flow,
Mm.
not really receiving.
Mm.
Just, give, do, fire, fire, fire. And I'm a pitta at that, pitta kapha over here, my Prakriti. So I personally have had the experience and where it wasn't until later in my life that I had the mirror held up and be like, whoa, this feels like an excessive expression
Mm.
masculine energy. My own personal experience has actually allowed me to align with that understanding versus
Mm-hmm.
being like just the concept that's like, oh yeah, I always knew that, I got that, it resonated. It was non-existent until my own life provided the results and the feedback and the kind of like, you know, reflection, if you will, on looking more inward and really kind of exploring and trying to understand how energy works.
Mm.
That's been the most fun for me because for me, and like yourself too, energy is everything, right? And
Mm-hmm.
once we start getting deeper understanding of how energy operates and flows,
Yeah.
it does allow more authenticity, more vitality, more life, more of the results we actually desire to start showing up in our life. And I will say that when I started balancing for myself the masculine and feminine energy, it has absolutely brought me more understanding, more flow, more abundance, more clarity, more blissful relationships, better communication. Because I do come from a background where I have like the matriarchy in our like life and our household is like more the doer.
Mm.
It just happened to be that my life is surrounded by a lot of women who are propelling their way around this world.
I can relate to that. I can relate. And I feel like that is actually a symptom of the times that we live in. So many women are expressed very highly in masculine energy for a multitude of reasons. And, I'm going to throw it out there, just like sneak it in. We're not, this is a whole convo in itself, but there has been a demonization in the patriarchal society that we live in of feminine expression, of feminine energy, of feminine traits, which also has led to the creation of systems where you are expected to perform according to masculine measurement of what is acceptable, what's good,
100%.
what is like. So, in order to succeed, you have to be in that more masculine, energetic expression and mentality.
Yes, so then it's even more deeply ingrained,
Yes.
conditioned in our patterns of thinking and understanding. And I agree with you. I think that it has made a lot of women feel like that is the only way to perform, that is the only way to be quote unquote successful, which that's a
Hmm.
whole other
Whole
conversation
convo.
about what success even means for every single individual, and it's not the same. So I will share this really quickly, just since we're on this kind of wavelength. My level of feminine energy expressed, it feels like it is an evolution
Mm.
and an unfolding more and more as I get older and wiser, that I am more embodied in it. Like I actually appreciate and care for more presence and flow and softness than I had in the past.
And that's something to celebrate, Iman. I feel that in order for us to actually feel comfortable in being in those states, and this also feeds into not just women but society valuing that masculine expression, is there is a certain amount of safety that is required in order for a person to relax and be in a more feminine energy expressed way
Oh,
of being,
that's so crazy that you say that. Goodness, what you just said is so powerful and so deep, because I think that's actually a big thing for me personally. It's like I used to, and me, there's a comedian in me at all times because that's, one of my things. But it's like I used to be like, who has the time to be in like flow state and that presence and that kind of let me appreciate beauty when they're totally in stress mode, and their way of solving said stress is to do something about it.
mm, mm.
I need to do something about this. I need to figure this out. I need to take action.
There's bills to pay.
Exactly. There's bills to pay. I need to quote unquote fix this. And
Mm.
so if you're in a constant state of wanting to do the things, fix the things, solve the things, it's going to be a lot less likely for you to even explore what would feminine energy look like and feel
Mm.
like for you.
Mm.
So what do you say about that, Ella?
I mean, absolutely, and this is part of like, right. So let's backtrack. This is
Yeah.
part of where I feel when we talk about wellness as being such an important legacy and such an intrinsic part of how successful we can see a society as being, then we can understand that this might sound like a lot of people might hear this and go, oh, this sounds so woo-woo. And yet it has very clear and practical, tangible expressions in our experience. So if we just break it down, let's keep it real simple. The masculine is the idea of doing. Yes, I have to figure things out. I have to be logical. I have to fix things. I have to come up with ideas. I have to be in that doing mode. Now, if we get stuck in that mode, what does that look like? That looks like things like burnout. That looks like people have suffering from or experiencing those very stress driven,
Chronic stress and fatigue.
overstimulated, sympathetic arousal experiences of life. So yeah, we can go, oh, being in my masculine, I'm like, oh, that's so woo woo, and yet this is what it looks like in reality, right?
Adrenal fatigue is a big
Exactly,
one.
exactly.
Thyroid.
Exactly. So all of these things have a very clear and tangible output if we are stuck in this way of being. Now, the opposite of that, that expression of being more in a feminine flow state, is that ability to, I don't have to have all the answers. There's a certain amount of faith I can hold in my experience. I don't have to feel the need to control everything. I can prioritize understanding and communicating from an emotional space and taking care of my emotional well being and connecting with you in an emotional way. And we also understand how intrinsically emotional intelligence is so fundamentally important to the relationships, whether that's in a professional setting, whether that's in a relationship, home environment. Those things are so essential to support well being and well functioning human beings. So, to have this awareness and understanding of this potentially woo woo concept of how we are expressed in masculine and feminine, and to actually bring it and apply it and see, actually, this is what it looks like if we break it down in society. This is what it looks like. So, our understanding of how well our society is functioning in that lens of well-being, we can see we are overstimulated in a masculine expression. Over we have too much reverence for these masculine traits, and that brings us out of harmony with the important things in the feminine. And I want to say this, I do feel like there has been a movement in certain circles, and particularly if you are a person that looks at coaches, has, you know, that kind of influence in your spheres. I feel like sometimes there's been an overextension to the other side. Like it's like the complete flip to like, oh, I'm just
Right.
totally in my feminine. I'm
Yeah.
just receiving. I'm just this. I'm just
Like
that.
totally eradicating the masculine and or
Yeah.
yeah, both ways.
You know, and it's all about flow and it's all about this. And in some ways, that's where the to me the idea of being in the wounded expression comes in, because you know, my favorite word is harmony, not balance, because there are some times where being more focused in that masculine expression is necessary.
Yeah.
I've had to have that for a long time raising my kids because I needed to pay the bills and I needed to do the things. And yet I realized how detrimental that was for me when I got into that stage of constant sympathetic arousal and all the things that came along with that, that I had to find what my harmony looked like. And that might be in moments, it might be in seasons of your life, it may be in approach to certain things. But this is something that when we start to cultivate our awareness of what that looks like in our life, we claim back our power to make different decisions.
Right.
As you mentioned, your journey of that unfolding and that realization and that mirror is fundamental to
Beautiful.
then finding your middle space or then finding your harmonious expression.
Beautifully said, Ella. I love everything you said. And honestly, it is actually the foundation and the root of how we want to create the life we want to create. Like our
Absolutely.
being, like when I think about how I want to be, how I want to live, the things I want to feel, the kind of like essence that I want to, embody every single day. It is 100% about harmonizing both those energies. Like you said, there are moments where it is go time and I need to, cultivate the masculine energy that lives within me that is going to help me, bring about those results and bring about those actions,
Get it done.
get it done, and then appreciate and be in presence and gratitude and flow.
Celebration.
Yeah, as well, right? To bring that in as well and not totally, ignore it. So I'm all about it, girl.
Absolutely. And then when we look at relationships, particularly intimate relationships, the success of those relationships are built in that masculine and feminine energy together, you know? So that connection that we have or not has to have that a bit of friction caused by those energies coming together and working off each other and understanding and feeling that and being able to play with it. It's one of the pleasures of being human that we can create this
Yeah,
awareness and then we can decide what to do with it. Like you said, the foundation of this, how it's expressed in our lives. And when you don't realize that you don't have to be constantly switched on to work, if you don't know that it's a possibility that you can make space for taking care of yourself and you can make space for tending to your needs and nurturing, because this idea of self-care, I feel like it's also been misunderstood in some ways at what that actually can encompass. Self-care,
100%.
like it can encompass, actually, I'm going to meditate and I'm going to turn inwards, as opposed to I'm going to care for my outer appearance or get my nails done. Get those things done, absolutely. But
For
it's getting
sure.
into the deeper layers and supporting our systems from those spaces as well.
From the inside out, like I always say.
Oh yes,
That's
girl.
the sexiest way to care for self and love for self is from deep within. So I love this topic. I hope our listeners are, understanding like what I would love our listeners to, share with us their experiences as well with these two dynamic energetics. One thing that I will quickly add before we wrap up is one of the biggest lessons, because just you mentioned like the polarity of relationships. One of my biggest lessons in my 10-year partnership with my beautiful man and unicorn of a man, married for 8 years, together for 10 years. One of the biggest lessons in our relationship for me has been the harmony and balance of feminine and masculine energy.
Mm,
So it had, and it was in the beginning, like I said, because I was conditioned and I ran on mostly expressing the masculine. So there were a few things you mentioned. So, like that need for control,
mm,
that kind of level of expression of like needing to get something done right away. That brings with it an energy and a dynamic with a partnership.
for
It
sure.
takes you out of presence, it takes you out of appreciation, it takes you out of what actually is happening.
Mm,
It can blind you. And
mm,
so, and thankfully, I have one of the most incredible partners ever, and so deep and so wise. And he actually grew up with a mom and in a household that was exceptionally very rare. That it's very rare, but exceptionally high emotional intelligence, and with a mom that has an outstanding and a mind-blowing way of harmonizing masculine and feminine energy. Like she's a gangster, she gets things done. She had him when she was 16. She figures things out, but I just got chills saying that, but I've never met a person in my life than my mother-in-law that has that embodiment and that harmony of feminine energy too. She's like a walking, she's just a goddess. She's like a walking bubble of like magic dust, I swear. The way she sees people, the way she speaks, even her volume, the way she listens, the way she's present with people, it's just, so this is the mother who raised the man I'm married with. So he had And it was the first time ever I personally experienced a heterosexual man have this kind of level of femininity in their way. And I was just like mind blown with the kind of masculine energy he has, because
The
he has
difference.
if anyone messes with his family, I don't want to be around with him, or disrespect. He doesn't have any. So it's beautiful to see. It's beautiful to watch. I've learned so much in being in partnership with this man and also having a mother-in-law like that. And that again added to my, like I told you, in most, I mean, that's 10 years, so it doesn't sound recent, but it is fairly recent when you're 39, right? You have most of your life, your childhood brought up in that masculine energy is the way, it's the only way to get things, it's the only way to be successful, and it really is not.
So what for you in your relationship was the biggest shift in understanding with these energies?
I would say presence and awareness.
Mm,
Being aware of what was happening. Because I think that's like isn't that kind of a little bit of a default setting with the masculine energy, especially when you're in the middle of the doing? You can be so tunnel vision and so focused on the doing, you're not really aware of the other things around you. But you know that doesn't change. Like we're not living in a vacuum. We're not doing life in a vacuum. We're not in a tunnel. We can
mm,
be as tunnel vision as we want, which again, like we said, it helps and there's moments for that and there's seasons for that. But again, realizing that there's an awareness to be had at all times of what your actions are doing and creating for everything and everyone around you. That
not
was
just
the big
you
thing.
in that tunnel.
Exactly. That
And
was the for me.
and also, I mean, the what I know of your relationship with Nirain is also that he gave you an opportunity to be in that safe space to explore doing things differently.
Oh, 100%. And also accepted me for the, excessive masculine energy that I came with.
Yeah,
You
because that could have caused, situation if he wasn't that tuned in.
And that's why I mentioned his mom and his upbringing. Look at the beauty. Like we said, we started with the magic and beauty, right?
Yeah.
Isaac, look at the magic and beauty that it created for us because he had that. If he didn't have that level of feminine energetics and the kind of upbringing he had and that harmony and that balance, despite what this man went through, despite all that, he wouldn't have been able to have that awareness and
Mm,
acceptance and understanding my conditioning because he wasn't oblivious to how I grew up. He
yeah.
knew. So there's that magic and beauty right there. I think that's a beautiful way to
Perfection. Couldn't have made it up if we
tie it
tried.
in a bow.
Could not. Now that is an express that is the perfect expression of the masculine finding its way to completion through the feminine.
Love it.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Iman.
You're so welcome.
And just before we go, it's
Ooh.
that time, Iman, where we are going to take a moment to celebrate part of who we are that we may have consigned to history, that we may have forgotten about. But it's so important to acknowledge that part of our history and bring it forward.
Yay! Our favorite tradition of a whole convo podcast. We are jumping back in time to celebrate something. So I'm going to actually kick it off. I
Yes.
really want to share something that, in thinking about this tradition, it wasn't something that I would have actually thought of as a celebration if we hadn't started this. So that's why I want to share it. So after college, I decided that I needed a break from school because I graduated with my bachelor's of science in biology. It was pre-dental. I majored in bio, minored in psychology. It was such an intense 4 years.
Especially with your ungraduating.
And the ungraduating. Yeah, I hope listeners go find that little crazy story because it's wild. But exactly, it was just so intense. I needed a break. I wasn't ready to take on the next step of going straight to dental school or continuing, college. I needed a break and I wanted a break. And I was so happy and grateful that my parents were supportive of that. And my dad's brilliant idea was to go be a flight attendant.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, but here's the thing, not just any regular flight attendant, like an international, go overseas, live overseas. My dad was a flight attendant and cabin manager as I was a kid. That's what he did for 16 years in Morocco. And for those who know the story, that's how he met my mom. So he was saying, you need a break. He knows how much I love travel and that it's part of my spirit and soul. He's like, you have no kids. You just finished school. This is the best time for you to do it. So he encouraged me to do it. And of course, I was nervous and scared moving to a foreign country, doing the whole thing. And I did it. And I went to Abu Dhabi and I worked for the national airline of Abu Dhabi, and it was Etihad Airways,
Love
and I
it.
did it for 2.5 years.
Love it. So before you had gone to Abu Dhabi, had you like before you started this work rather, had you gone and spent any time there? Did you know the
So I
country?
love that question because I didn't go as an adult, but we went as kids. Obviously, through my dad's little travel, life, we went. I think the last time I was in Abu Dhabi before I went as an adult was maybe I was 3 or 4 years old.
Oh wow, so like no recollection.
No recollection. And mind you, this was after college. So I think this was like the early 2000s for me. I was either 20 or 21 years old. I'm 39 now. So this was before Abu Dhabi was Abu. This is before people even
It was
knew.
like a thing, yeah.
Yeah, because now everyone knows about, Abu Dhabi and Dubai and all that. But this was before, it was even known. And I want to celebrate that because I look back at my little 20-year-old self living somewhere new, not knowing anyone there, going to aviation school, learning
I love
overseas.
that.
Yeah, I went to aviation school there, and then I started traveling the world, and you meet cabin crew and pilots, and you're traveling the world and you're going all over. And it was just such an epic thing for me to do. It took so much courage, so much tenacity, so much passion to just do it, passion for travel, because I'm obsessed. And yeah, so I want to celebrate that.
I love that. Celebrating your courage, your openness to adventure,
I open.
celebrating your fearlessness to just throw yourself into that new experience.
Thank you, my darling. What are we celebrating for you this month?
Well, I had an idea, and then before you even said that, something took me back to a similar point in my development. And I
Oh.
think it was just because I was thinking, oh my gosh, I made it through school having a baby, right? So this is my celebration, remembering that I was studying law and I got pregnant with Nikki because I was told I wouldn't be able to conceive naturally. So that's a whole convo. I
Oh,
got
that's a whole
pregnant
combo.
with her. Yeah, I got pregnant with her when in so I ended up having her at the end of my second year of uni. And I remember at the time everyone saying to me, "Oh, you think you'll come back and finish, but you won't, because once you have a baby, that will be it. You'll change your mind. You won't want to do it." And it was literally everyone. I even remember having a conversation with the course director. His name was Andy Unger, and he was like,
I love that you remember his full name.
"No," because it was just such a specific name. And I remember sitting in his office, and he was just like, "This is the last I'm going to see of you, isn't it?" I was like, "Andy, no, I will be back in September. I will be back." And I completed that third and final year
Wow.
with Nikki as a little baby. And I remember staying up. So I'd go to uni, do my little lectures and whatnot, and then stay up till 2 or 3 doing the studying and all of the things. And I remember that being particularly tough when I was doing my dissertation. And when we completed that year, I was one of only of a handful of people who actually got like the top grades in that
Wow.
year. So many people didn't do as well as they'd hoped or expected, but I was one of the few people. There were like 5 people that got over, I think it was 80%, when we completed that. Yes, I'm celebrating and
That is a
acknowledging that.
huge celebration. First of all, it's not even easy to finish school without a child. Finishing
So
uni
true.
without a kid, let alone with all of that responsibility and all. And this is your first baby too. So can you imagine all the things you had to learn on top of your studies?
Because but to me, it was like there was nothing to compare it to. So this is just how it is.
Right. Right. Yeah, you're doing it. And that's the thing. See, that's why I love celebrating these moments because it's like that was you. That's still you. That's the Ella that wasn't uni. Knew you were coming back, even though people doubted, even though people thought otherwise. You're like, oh, no, 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 no. I will be back and I will be finishing. And you did that. And that takes a level of commitment and just persistence, right?
And a little bit of bloody mindedness as well.
What is bloody mindedness like stubborn?
Yeah. Yeah, a little
It's
bit of
good to
that,
be
you know.
stubborn sometimes, isn't it? Especially when it comes to our dreams. Like that
Absolutely.
defined, my husband always says, like, my defined head and ashna, for those who know human design, like my stubbornness sometimes with like the being so defined on what I know and what I want to do.
So is that him or you that has both defined
Me,
you?
I have both a defined head and ajna, so I can be so fixated where he's open on both. So he brings in a lot of new perspectives and a lot of new, ways to look at things, or I can be a little bloody minded, as you said.
I love that. And you saying that they're both have defined makes so much sense to me. So much sense.
What a celebration. I love that. Yay, yay to us. And please, listeners and those watching our on YouTube for our podcast, or those listening to our podcast on all the audio platforms, please share with us. Please share
Yes,
with us
put it in the comments. We want to know yours, don't we?
Yes, we want to know yours and we want to celebrate them too. So thank you so much for sharing your epic, epic celebration. I love that, Ella. And thank you everyone for listening in. This has been a whole convo with Ella and Iman.
Until next time.
That is a wrap on this week's convo. We had a blast talking to you.
Thank you for sharing your time, hearts, and minds with us.
We hope this episode left you thinking, feeling, and maybe even breathing a little deeper. If it moved something in you, please share it, text it to a friend, or just sit with it.
Remember, the power of change can start with the simplest convo.
And if you have any comments or thoughts you'd like to share with us, please feel free to do so. We'd love to connect with you. Don't forget to subscribe to our show so you never miss a moment of the magic. And if you're curious about any of our services and offerings, check out the show notes for all the links and goodies. We're so grateful you're on this journey with us. Until next time,
Stay rooted, stay whole.